Hello everybody, welcome back to another installment of Life Stories. My name is Trent, and as per usual, as you may expect, we are back with more stories from Reddit/idontworkherelady. So, buckle up, and let's get started. Our first story is titled, "For the last time, lady, I'm not a court secretary." So I work in a prison in a supervisor role, and I always seem to be mistaken for an employee of other places. I'm sometimes involved in transporting newly sentenced criminals to the prison. This involves going to the courts and collecting them, and it's normally a straight-in, straight-out ordeal. It's also worth knowing that I'm a woman. A few other officers and I went to our local court to collect two men who we were taking back with us. The two men are being held separate, so me and another prison officer, named Jake, split off to go and collect one of them and escort him to the van. Jake goes into the room first, finding the man talking to his mother, Karen, and politely begins the conversation as I enter. Karen just does a beeline for me. "Hi, I was just wondering how we could go about the appeals process. My son here is innocent." "I'm not sure, ma'am. You'd have to ask a court official or a lawyer. I work for the
But you're the secretary to the judge. You should surely know this. I don't want my son going to prison. He won't survive a second in there."
I can't disclose the crime for obvious reasons, but I can assure you prison is a dangerous place for those found guilty of this offense, so I understand her fear. However, I can't help her, as I know very little about the court process. Ma'am, I'm not a secretary. I'm a prison transport officer. If you look at my uniform,
You're a woman!
Me, very confused, and looking to Jake for help. Yes, I am, but I'm not a secretary. Karen looks to Jake.
There are no female prison officers. She's definitely a secretary.
Jake says, "No, she's an officer. There are loads of female prison officers. We need to escort your son, so if you could go and find—"
Ridiculous! She's dressed as a secretary.
This is a load of BS. I'm wearing the exact same uniform as Jake is. Black army boots, black trousers, white shirt, black tie, and even the fancy little hat that we sometimes get to wear on jobs like this. Literally, the only thing I'm wearing that could make me look like a secretary is my glasses. Ma'am, this is a prison officer uniform. Now, we need to stick to a schedule, so we need to go. Please go to the front and speak with the actual secretaries. My colleague and I need to get going." The guy stands up hurriedly, letting Jake take a hold of his handcuffs, and comes along with no problems, and we turn to leave. We're halfway down the corridor, within view of the security team in the courts, and thus, the actual secretaries, when Karen grabs my arm and tries to spin me around. I roll my eyes, and Jake and I turn to glare at her.
"Can I help you, ma'am?" "Yes, you can tell me how to appeal. You're a secretary. Do your job."
"For the last time, lady, I'm not a secretary. I am a prison guard. You can see my uniform, you can read the badges, unless you really are that stupid. Also, it's incredibly sexist of you to assume that I'm a secretary purely because I'm a woman. Now, we're behind schedule, so if you would kindly go and speak to those men over there. All the secretaries on duty that day were male, quite funny. They can help you." I turn and follow Jake, who hadn't bothered stopping and by this point was out by the van, and all but stormed out of there. I heard Karen complaining to the secretaries that I was so rude for trying to get out of my job. The secretary's response? "Sorry, ma'am, we can't help. We're prison officials." Okay, look, I'm not going to claim to understand anything about the court system, but I'm glad to see that, at least from the outside, they also seem to have a strict no Karen policy. Moving on, our next story is titled, "Can I go home now, please?" I'm 23 and live in an apartment building that's filled with old people. Like, 60 is the youngest person besides me. This is no problem for me. I work at sea, so I'm not home often. And when I am home, I work construction, so I'm always gone before 6 in the morning and come home late in the evening. I like all the working, but the result is I only know the two couples on my floor. I also don't generate a lot of noise, so nobody ever had a reason to come and meet me. The other people are complete strangers to me. I guess that it's partially my fault for not trying to meet them, but anyway, let's continue. Whenever there's a meeting about something needing to happen in my building, my father usually represents me. This also adds to the pile of reasons why nobody knows me. Anyway, this particular week, there was construction happening in our building on the ground floor. There was a very specific rule that the co-workers were not allowed in any other part of the building other than the ground floor. I did not work that job, would have been nice though, but I knew some of the guys working. So one day, I decided to finish my job early and go home and chat a bit with my mates. We had been chatting for a while when some old lady came in. She did not look like the typical sweet grandma, but more like a veteran Karen who had served as a pain in the butt throughout several generations of employees and managers. As she walked towards the elevators, I also decided it was time to go to my apartment. So I said goodbye to my mates with a promise to get some drinks together on the weekend. I also walked to the elevator. The old lady looked a bit surprised when I got into the elevator. She immediately started to go at me. I was still wearing my work clothes, so to be fair, it was completely reasonable to assume I was a worker and not an apartment owner. She told me in not such a nice tone that I had no business being in the elevator and that I needed to go back to my work. I tried to explain that I lived there and showed her my keys. Without warning, she took my keys from me and accused me of stealing. Mind you all, I am almost 2 heads longer than this woman, so to do this is actually kind of brave of her. Not knowing what to do about this, I asked if we should go to the boss of the workers that were working there to confirm that I'm not working. He immediately confirmed. After that, I took the lady to my post box since it had my name on it. I showed her multiple kinds of ID with pictures, and after that, she believed me. She looked really ashamed, so I offered a cup of tea from my apartment. We had a nice chat and got to know each other a little. She's actually a pretty nice woman, maybe a bit rude when she thinks something's wrong, but definitely not a witch. We still drink tea at least once a week when I'm home. Well, that was a much more wholesome ending than I was expecting. Nice. Moving on, our next story is titled, I Demand You Tell Me Where the Free Food Is. This one happened yesterday, and I'm still pretty pissed about it. My little sister goes to an after-school care with her friends after school, and while I'm walking back home from school, I'm supposed to pick her up. My sister's school finishes an hour earlier than mine. Anyways, at the after-school care, there's always children volunteers my age working there, so I could easily be mistaken as one of the volunteers. So, I walked inside to find my sister when I felt a tug on my bag. I turned around and saw an angry woman. She demanded that I show her where the free food was. The after-school care serves free food for the children attending there and their parents. I didn't know because I would only come to this place to pick up my sister and never explored the place. I shrugged her hand off and told her I didn't know. The entitled mother says, "But you're a volunteer, you dumb child! You're meant to know!" I'm not a volunteer. I'm just here to pick up my sister. Don't be so sassy. I know you work here. I don't even have the volunteer pin. You obviously took it off. Then, one of the teachers came over and asked what was going on. This boy isn't showing me where the free food is. He doesn't even work here. Also, do you have a child who attends here? No, but my friend has a child who comes here. Then you're not entitled to any of the food. EM then turned bright red before quickly grabbing a child and running. No, she wasn't kidnapping. As my sister told me, she was a friend of her friend's mom. Hopefully that makes sense. And she's in charge of picking her friend up because her friend's mom is busy. Well, at least we kind of derailed at the end there. When I heard she ran off with a kid, I thought this was about to go somewhere terrible. But, hey, silver linings. And our last story of the day is a short one, and it's titled, Honest Mistake, Couldn't Resist. Not sure if this fits here, but a short tale. I'm at Trader Joe's, wandering among the aisles, deciding how much money I want to part with, when a lady walks up and asks me where the bathroom is. I don't know, somewhere in the back, I guess, I reply. Could you please be a little more helpful than that? It is about this time I realize my Hawaiian shirt is pretty much on point for an employee uniform, and I can't resist the urge for a little fun. I'm sorry, what you're going to want to do is head up that aisle there, out the front doors, take a right at the parking lot, and follow the wall behind the dumpster. Knock first, because there's a big raccoon that hogs the can. Her mouth hung open for a second, moving, but no words emitted from her bewildered noise hole. At this point, I take pity on her, as I didn't want her peeing herself, or going out back and getting bit by a raccoon. I'm just kidding, lady. I have no idea. I don't actually work here. I dress this way by choice. She utters a low, awkward chuckle and shuffles off to the next dapperly dressed person. Honestly, I expected that one to be a little more mean-spirited than it actually was, so good on you, OP. And with that, that's all the time we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. Gonna give you the whole spiel as per usual. Thank you for tuning into Life Stories. My name is Trent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way, and I hope to see you guys soon.